Bonjour, mes amis. So, I just wanted to talk to you about a taboo subject that has been playing on my mind for quite some time. I normally post videos on my channel about mental health, which I haven't done for a very long time because I have been suffering with a seasonal worsening of my depression, which happens. And I also have this chronic fatigue, which is now finally being investigated after about 10 years of going to the doctor constantly. Anyway, that to one side, I wanted to talk about debt and my personal debt. I'm going to talk to you about how I'm managing my debt, how you can manage your own debt, how you can do things to have an enriched life, but obviously you're in debt, so you have to have cheaper options. There's a lot of things with being in debt that kind of feels awful, and I will talk about that. But I want to talk to you today about the level of debt I'm in. I'm going to talk to you at some point about why I'm in debt, which 50% of it is probably my fault, but 50% of it definitely is not my fault. So I've had a very, very unlucky cycle of events, I think. It doesn't help that my mental health has been quite bad. Because I haven't been able to work as hard as I probably, should do. So I did read a statistic once that people with mental health issues are more likely to be in a greater level of personal debt than people that do not suffer with mental health issues. So yeah, I'm going to just sort of break it down into different sections, and I'm thinking I'm going to do a bit of a series on this, but this is just like a kind of new seed of thought in my head, and so let's just go with it. So, in October last year, that's October 2018, I decided I need to, because my debt was getting to the point where I was making my payments, but I was not able to kind of make my payments that easily. Obviously I was doing it, but trying really hard to keep afloat, and it was all getting a bit too much. So I totaled up the total value of all of the debts I have, including my overdraft. So I have quite a large overdraft facility. I have I think it's large, personally, £1,000 overdraft facility, which I very stupidly signed up for a course without looking at when my balance transfer on my credit card was going to... Sorry, my eye is really itchy, I don't know why. My balance transfer on my credit card was going to expire from the balance transfer period, which means that I could pay it off without having interest. So yeah, I signed up for this course, which was a lot of money. Did that, and I didn't actually need to do it in the end, because I decided to go down an apprenticeship route with my job. So I'm a bit bummed out that I did it. Anyway, it cost me about £2,000, but it also put me into it kind of broke me a bit, because I suddenly 3 months into this course that I was paying for a year, it was £130 a month, a whole year. My credit card decided, oh look, your balance well, I didn't decide, obviously it was going to be scheduled to be, your balance transfer has expired, so now you have to pay interest. So my costs doubled for that, and I was like, oh balls. And my car is very old and needed a lot of work doing to it, so I ended up in my overdraft to the point where I was nearly at the £1,000, and I was okay. So in October I totaled up all of my debts and wrote down the amount. So in October 2018, my total personal debt was just under £24,000. I know. So I was well, we need to do something about this now, because I don't want to lose my house. I want to lose everything that I've actually worked for. And I know that if I lost things and if I wasn't able to make my payments, my mental health would just spiral out of control. And that is something I do not want to go down. I do not want to end up being another statistic of someone that's committed suicide because of debt. So that's why I decided to go against it. So what I decided, I made a 5-year plan. And what I decided that I've got a couple of loans as well as credit cards, because I got loans to try and pay off the credit card and consolidate it. But unfortunately, the loans didn't cover the full cost of the credit card. So I ended up with two things, and then I ended up, because I was paying several things, ended up needing to buy things on the credit card. So it all kind of spiraled like that. As well as being homeless and things like that at one point. So that is all stuff that contributed to the astounding value of this debt. So I'm an intelligent, well, I like to think I'm an intelligent person, and I decided that if I work really hard and I work all of this out, I can make a 5-year plan, and I know I sound like Stalin, I will keep track of this. So I started actually writing a blog, but then I thought, well, I've got the YouTube channel, maybe I should, actually talk on there about it, because it's a taboo subject, and I don't really like hiding behind a screen and saying this is blah blah blah. Why can't I just talk about it? Like, it's something that really affects my life, so why can't I feasibly talk about it with people? Because people always say that if you have mental health issues, you should talk. It's still a taboo. People don't want to talk about mental health. People are like, ooh, when you talk about it. And I think that needs to change. So I am going to break down that barrier, and I'm going to talk about mental health, and I'm going to talk about debt, because debt and mental health kind of go hand in hand, really. So I'm going to talk in another video about exactly why I'm in so much debt, and all of the ins and outs of that. And I will do other videos on like things you can do for free, ways of managing debt, ways of feeding the family on a budget, and other stuff like that. So anyway, I will come to some sort of conclusion with that. I'm really sorry I took my glasses off. I can't really see very well right now. The sun is shining right in my eyeballs, and the glare was just horrible, so I just took them off. Anyway, today, so October my debt was just under 24,000. Now my debt is 21,500. So in that time, I have paid off £2,500, and that's 6 months basically. So if in 6 months I paid off 2,500, I'm not doing too badly. So what I decided I was going to do was I toted up all of the minimum payments. So I've basically put most of my cards to minimum payments, except for one that was quite a low minimum payment, so I've upped that to the nearest 50. So I've upped it actually to £50. Actually, I might as well just say £50. So I'm paying off all the minimums, apart from that one, which is £50, because that one's got a balance transfer on it, yay! And I took out another small balance transfer card. So I transferred, I think, £800 to this other card. So I've got £800 that I'm not paying any interest on. So I transferred that balance, and actually the card, the main culprit card, is for the first time this month under £10,000, which I am so happy about. So I'm currently paying the minimum payment for that. When that minimum payment gets to less than £200, I'm going to cap that payment at £200. So I want to pay more than the minimum payment once I get to £200. So that little card that I took out with a small amount, I'm going to try and pay that off before October, when the balance transfer runs out. When that is paid off, my plan is to close that card, and then, because I won't have used any credit cards or anything by that point, I'm going to probably see if I've got another balance transfer that I can get. A small one, because they won't give me a big one, and try and transfer out a balance and do the same again. So I decided that that would be the best course of action for now, to take down some of my costs. I also decided that I'm quite lucky in my job that I get paid wages rather than a salary. So if I work overtime and things like that, I don't get well, I do get time in lieu. It's a bit complicated, but I can work overtime, and I can also work casual shifts, so I can get paid more. So I decided, and I get paid more at the weekends. So I decided that every weekend that I'm not scheduled to work, I'm going to do at least a bank shift if I can, if there's one available. So I've been doing that, and I've been trying to earn more than my minimum outgoings. So the idea eventually is to claw myself out of the overdraft. And side note here, doesn't help when junkies break into your garage because they're looking for tools to sell to feed their drug habit, which happened to me twice last month, and I have to pay £200 to get the door fixed. For God's sake. Really? You have to choose the people that are so poor. Like, why don't you, like, don't break into anyone's house, but, like, why choose, like, people that are just not very rich? Why? So yeah, that was my little moan over. I've been earning, like, the last month I earned, I think I earned over £100 more than I needed to. So that was really good. I'm slowly dragging myself out of my overdraft. I've also decided, because this is one of my big faults, and I think this is a really, really important point, is that I was at one point, like a year ago, I was like, oh, I've got no money to spend on myself. And so every now and then I would get like really mad and like really depressed and go out and spend like £200 on my credit card, which is not good. So what I decided was I'm not going to use any credit card. I'm not going to use credit at all, apart from my overdraft, which is, I'm trying to get out of it, but it's very, very, very slow progress. At the moment I'm sort of clawing my way £50 a month out of that. Anyway, I decided to give myself £50 a month allowance. I tried £25 a month, but I found that wasn't really enough to buy stuff that I wanted, and I found there isn't actually that much I want. So any money that I have got left over, I am sort of saving to one side, and then I might, in October, when this card is out of its balance transfer period, I might just dump anything that's left onto that card to try and clear that quicker. And then obviously do the closing the card and getting a new one. And the other thing I've been doing is fuel. So I have to use my car for work, and obviously it being an old car, it needs some work doing to it occasionally. I'm very lucky in the fact that my dad is actually a mechanical engineer, so he can do that for me, and it doesn't cost me as much. But I've been putting, like, I think I spend about £80 a month in fuel, and I've been putting £120 a month if I know it's going to be something expensive that month for my car, or £100 if it's a bit of an easier month. So my total outgoings are just about 1,650, which does mean, unfortunately, with my wages, I have to work some overtime. I'm quite burnt out at the moment, actually. So I have been earning quite a lot the last 3 or 4 months, and I might just chill it for a bit, because I don't want to just break down and have the same situation as I had 2 years ago, where I had to reduce my hours at work because of my mental health, which kind of didn't help the whole being in debt situation, which I'll talk about in that other video I spoke about earlier. So yeah, I'm trying to earn, it's not spend, Jesus Christ, I'm trying to earn £100 a month more than I need to go out. And I'm giving myself £50 allowance, and I'm giving myself a car allowance. And I'm not going over that. I've been really, really good, and I'm actually finding that stuff I want, I'm putting on a wish list, and at the end of the month when I've got my money, I'm like, oh, do I actually want that? No, and I just don't get it. One of the things I kind of have been spending a lot of money on is my hair. I've been doing it myself at home, like I bleach it and tone it myself, which is why it's so scraggly at the moment. Anyway, that's another story. I'm probably going to go away from the blonde soon. I had to go to the dentist last month, and that cost me a bit of money, which is really annoying. I've been longing going to the dentist, because in the UK we get subsidised dental fees, but it still costs too much money to go to the dentist, and I had a problem with an impacted wisdom tooth, and I was in so much pain and agony, which is probably why I'm so burnt out now, because I literally didn't sleep for about 3 weeks. So yeah, at the moment I'm doing fine with the debt management. I'll get there, and in 2 years time from June, so I will be I'm 2 years away from 2 of my loans being finished. Obviously, if I'm in a position where I can, like, I mean, the loans are like a fixed rate, so they're not really that big a deal with the interest fees. So I'm trying to snowball it. There's like a snowball method of getting rid of your debt. I'm trying to snowball it and pay on off all of the credit cards first, which is my big plan. So I'm paying off, well, the idea is to pay off the interest, the highest interest rate first. But what I'm doing like a modified version of that, where I'm paying off the smallest credit card debt, and then the next smallest, and then the next smallest, because I'm feeling like the more money I've got going to different places, like say if you paid £25 a month per card, so you've got 4 cards, that's £100 a month. I feel like I would rather pay that £100 a month to one card. So I want to do that. So that's my plan, is to get rid of the other smaller cards and then pay that £100 a month off to or whatever amount that is that I can afford to pay to one card, and that is where I'll sit. And I am determined not to use credit cards. I mean, sometimes you kind of have to use finance options, like my car insurance is due in a couple of months, and because of my mental health and the fact that I was really tired, I had a massive car accident and my interest is probably sky high. So I might have to get that on finance. Last year I very stupidly stuck it on my credit card because I was like, oh, I'm not paying a finance company, but I'm probably now paying more in credit card fees. Kind of really stupid. I don't know what I was thinking last year. I wasn't in a good place mentally. Yeah, so I'm trying to just, do small things. I'm finding that writing it all down and keeping a track of exactly how much debt I have, and even today, just looking at that, I've nearly paid off £2,500 of my debt in 6 months, is like amazing. That's £5,000 a year. Like, how good is that? Like, that made me feel so much better. Like, I think in 5 years' time I won't have any debt if I carry on doing what I've been doing. Now, in February next year, I'm due to get a pay rise. Yay! And it might actually mean that I don't need to work so much overtime. Now, I'm going to play it by ear because obviously with my mental health, it's quite difficult doing overtime and stuff. I have got 2 weeks off next month, so I'm going to try and relax for the whole of June and just not do too much overtime. And then in July, maybe start it up again and see how I go. But it's kind of like a thing with my job is we're perpetually short-staffed, so there's always need for someone to work overtime, and I'm like, I need money, so why not work overtime? But I also need some sanity. Sanity and working a lot of overtime kind of don't really go hand in hand. So I'm really trying to, be cautious about my mental health, but also be really sensible about my money and my spending. Yeah, so we're trying to do the best we can, and we actually had a discussion as a couple about our debts, and although there's still a bit of a taboo about it, there's still a bit of I don't exactly know how much my husband pays out and in every month. I don't really need to know the ins and outs of his stuff as long as he's managing and I'm managing. The one thing I really don't want to do is do a bankruptcy, which means I'd lose my house as well anyway, but I don't want to do that. So I am determined that in 5 years from October last year, so that'll be October 2023, I will be debt free. And this is my promise to myself, and I guess to you guys. So what I intend on doing is to do a video at least once a month and kind of give you a bit of an update, what I've done this month, how I've managed it, what I've done for free, how I've managed it. I'm actually quite lucky. I live in Brighton, and I live just outside Brighton, and we have what's called the Brighton Fringe, and it's a festival for like art, comedians, all of that sort of stuff. And there's a lot of free entertainment on at the moment. There's a lot of pay for stuff, obviously, but there's a lot of free stuff, so we can do some stuff like outside of the house for free, which is great. Yeah, so it's looking up. In 2 years' time, it'll be much easier on me. Maybe from February next year, it'll be much easier on me. But that is like one of the main issues in my life at the minute. Is like I don't actually know how much I earn every month, because it changes from month to month. We had a lot of bank holidays last month, so I might actually earn a bit more this paycheck, but obviously I don't know until it goes into my bank account how much it is and how much overtime I need to do. So I'm actually hoping I don't actually need to do any overtime this month, because I really need to sleep. Tomorrow I'm doing 10 hours overtime. Oh my god, what is wrong with me? But it might just, help. So I'm hoping that it all goes well. Yeah, I'm just going to stop rambling now. Anyway, follow me if you want to hear about my debt management crisis, and if you want to see how I'm doing or not doing so well. I guess just subscribe or something, I don't know. Bye!